Yes, sir.
Is there a specific bill or rule that you can talk about that would move things forward? Is there something being restricted within the regulations that is keeping this from happening?
Well, one of the bills that definitely affects us is our HELP Act. That bill is a two-part bill. One part of it addresses Title 19 Medicaid, which Dr. Armstrong referred to what happened in Arizona. Pediatric physicians are considered optional in Title 19. They're not defined as physicians as they are in Title 18 Medicare. So what happens is sometimes these states believe that by eliminating podiatry from the Medicaid program in the state, they'll save money. And as was clearly pointed out in Arizona, what happens is it actually costs them more money. A second part of that kind of touched on what Dr. Steinberg was talking. There's a provision in that to simplify the Medicare therapeutic shoes for people with diabetes. It gives them a simpler method. There's some barriers now between the podiatrist, the physician that's treating the diabetes in terms of the records, and just giving greater access to patients in terms of being able, those who qualify, to get the therapeutic shoes. So that legislation is currently pending, which would be very helpful.
That legislation does both things?
Yes, that's both in the House and in the Senate. There should be information about that in your packets with the bill numbers. Yes, sir.
Part of what we do as staff for our bosses is help try to raise awareness in the districts, do events and whatnot. What do you suggest and who might we want to work with to try to do things to bring awareness to constituents, especially in underserved areas that might not necessarily, well, compliance obviously is one thing with that obviously doctors deal with their patients, but just getting people aware of what are the implications of if we don't take, like you said, take care of this in advance, what can happen at the end stage. So just
Sure. There's a lot of educational outreach that's done nationally. The American Pediatric Medical Association is actually an umbrella organization, so we have 53 components that include all 50 states, the District of Columbia, Federal Services, and Puerto Rico. So in the district, you could reach out to that, like the Arizona Pediatric Medical Association, and they would be happy to provide speakers that could help run a program to raise awareness of diabetes and the complications that are associated with it. Yes, ma'am.
Could you gentlemen talk a little bit more about the drug that's in Cuba and what's being done by the University of Arizona and Georgetown to get it into clinical trial here? Is there something that the Congress can do? Is there a large
Well, the short answer is I don't know if there's anything Congress can do right now. There may very well be. As I understand it, and I'm just a foot doctor, but about 10 years, well, 7 years ago, we had meetings with Treasury, with state, remarkably, and I've had many meetings with FDA over the years about so many different things, but it was great to stretch myself in the executive branch. And that drug, which was called, it's an epidermal growth factor called Heberprot, was very nearly allowed to come through via OFAC in Treasury to to clinical trials in the United States 5 or 6 years ago. That didn't happen. I think the politics just weren't right. Now it appears that might be changing. I'm not entirely aware of where it is in the process. I don't know. There's some people. Do you guys know where that is?
It's in final review with OFAC now for the license to conduct clinical trials in the U.S.
You all know what OFAC is? Because I don't. Yeah, I think you have to buy a vowel there because there's only one A and two O and an A.
Office of Foreign Assets
Controls. Bingo. See, that was a team approach. But again, we shall see. Our goal for this and other technologies is just to give them a fair shot. And when you do that, then I think real advances can be made. And it's really exciting. This is a drug. There's so many other technologies that are really making a difference. And when you marry those things with folks that really care about the problem, you can really affect change. And then when you have the policy growing in the same direction, well, Katie, bar the door.
in your slides, Dr. Armstrong, you had mentioned that the disparity between cancer and then therapies for
Yeah.
Can you kind of speak to that a little bit more? I mean,
Yeah.
there's gotta be, because there's money.
Look, here's the thing. I can definitely speak to it more. I don't want to put you all to sleep. You're all postprandial now, so you've just had a big insulin rush. Let me tell you what's going on in your body right now. The way you feel is largely because of the speaker, but also because of that delicious meal. So, look, first of all, hard things are hard. And this is a complicated problem that is multifactorial, but it's also at the end of the body. And just as you heard Mr. Hughes, I mean, so eloquently say, I took a bunch of pictures of you, by the way, with the American flag there. That was so freaking great. But the pain, it's silent because it doesn't hurt him. And he's got his foot covered up with a brace. But if he were not getting treated at Georgetown, he'd have his foot covered up by the same shoe that caused the problem. And you would say, holy cow, that's crazy. And I would say, holy cow, you're right. That's the standard of care around the world right now, largely because doctors and nurses are conditioned to respond, like all of us, to pain. And so no one pays attention to it. And so it's not until this problem gets way out of hand and we're dealing with an emergency, and then it's just an amputation. And so this has been, just like you always hear the term here, kick the can down the road, kick the can. That's what happens here. Except it's harder to kick when you have a friggin' prosthetic. And the key is to get out in front of it. And it's silent and sinister, but that's why we have to work doubly hard to make a difference here. And a lot of this is not very sexy. I mean, God knows, the foot's not very sexy and diabetes isn't, but you add them both together and they're super unsexy. But I think coming together, we can really make this something that we all care about. I'm sorry to go off on that, and I can certainly be specific, but you've already heard the specificity from Dr. Christina.
Yeah, I would follow up too, just to reemphasize though, I think one of our big needs right now is to make sure that universal definition of physician is in place, because as a podiatric physician, my license and the letters after my name are different as DPM instead of MD. And when the federal systems don't back that up as far as looking at how Medicare and Medicaid define us, we have good definition under Medicare, but not a great definition under Medicaid. Things get confused sometimes when it comes to the politics of medicine. And medicine, used to think it wasn't political, but medicine is very political, and you all know that very well, that healthcare is clearly a politics issue. And when that can be used against us, and you start blocking access of patients to care, you start disrupting the team that we just talked about, and that's a real problem.
Great. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much for coming. We certainly appreciate that. We're available to answer questions. You have all the information. You can contact APMA at any time if you need more information. Thank you.